Installing the upper, lower control arms and coilovers from Detroit Speed, part of their Speed Kit 3 for a 71 Camaro. Let's do it today. Oh, we got Mike from Red Barn Racing here.
Hold on.
What's going on, guys? Matt over here, Lethal Garage, and today I want to bring you a video showing you how to install the upper and lower control arms on a Detroit Speed with their coilover kit on a stock factory subframe for a 1970 and I guess technically to 80 Camaro and Firebird. It kind of spans a few of those. We have one side basically complete. The idea here is to get the upper, the lower, we got our brake spindle and the spring and the coilover in place. We're gonna show you how to install it all and be good to go. So let's do it. Starting this install, there's a few things you have to highlight and understand. So your lower control arm from factory, obviously this isn't one, but the bolt here is probably ½ inch, maybe a little bigger. It needs to be 9/16. So I made the mistake and bought brand new grade 8 bolts that weren't 9/16, and then I ended up going to get them. So make sure you get 9/16 bolts. That's what it calls for. It does require you to have them in this kit. The other side of it, the coilover in the top. Now my original front factory frame didn't have a 3/4 inch hole. It was much smaller. This hole needs to be at least 3/4 of an inch to allow this coilover to poke through. So if you need to make that modification, do it before you powder coat. In my instance, I bought this subframe to replace my factory one. My factory one didn't have the holes drilled out. This one did. Yay. In the Detroit Speed kit, you get the upper control arm, the lower control arm, your spring, your coilover, depending on what setup you go with. And you're gonna get some nuts and bolts to hold the coilover to the perch, and some tools and some bearings that are gonna be sitting in between the spring and the coilover. What you don't get are the 9/16 bolts, washers, and nuts that you need. So make sure you grab those before you start this project. And now we need to show you the holes that we have to enlarge, because I didn't enlarge the 9/16 holes on this side because I wanted to show you how to do that. Okay, so in this instance, using a step bit, wow, that is perfect. Now we gotta get that hole. That one's gonna be challenging. That one's in a very tight location. I don't have the best answer on how to get to this. I got it at a really tight angle and got it just enough to get the bolt through. Getting this to 9/16, I'm gonna have to throw it back at you guys because I used a step bit with an angled drill and just got it in there just enough to get the hole right. Now that we have the holes drilled out, we can get the lower control arm. Actually, I need to get some side snips because they have zip ties holding in the bushings. Okay. Mike's gonna grab those real quick. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna stuff this lower control arm into their mounts, one being here, one being over there. And the biggest problem here is it's a tight fit. So I may need rubber mallet.
Or grease.
Or grease. So the biggest thing here is I'm just trying to get the arms. Sure. So this one goes in pretty easy. It's up this side every time. Oh, there it goes. So that one's in. So we'll see if I can get this. A lot of shaking. This setup right here, we just gotta kind of wiggle till we get it lined up on the hole, and then we're gonna get the bolt in place. So you can see this side, I already got the bolt started, got it to catch. I basically just got the bushing side up through the top side and then got it down. You get it? Oh, it's so close. There we go. Yay. So we ran into another small issue. The 9/16 bigger washer that I had was hitting the part of the subframe and wasn't sitting flush. We ended up grabbing a smaller washer that was thinner. We drilled it out to 9/16 and we're good. I'm gonna go find some thinner washers because these washers are way too thick, causing the threads to not even get close to the end of the lock stud. So I may end up getting longer bolts as well. we'll see. This side's being a bigger pain than I wanted it to. So we got the lower control arm in, it's good to go. Got the washers all lined up. Now we got to get the upper. Again, they have the, are they the camber bolts? Is that the right? The adjustments, the little inserts.
Well, that would be for caster.
Yeah, the caster adjustment. So I'm leaving the stock ones on here until we actually have weight and the car's rolling and we take it to an alignment shop to get it properly aligned.
Yes, good.
Good boy. We got to get our side cutters and they do a really good job packing this stuff all in there, and then I get my greasy handprints all over it. So I'm gonna cut these zip ties and we'll get it mounted. Got my bolts in the upper arm. See if we can. Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it.
Oh, big hands.
Oh.
One.
This is harder to do recording. One hand holding the arm.
Oh, this coilover is too small.
No, it's not.
It is.
You just gotta line it up just right.
I'm not holding it off right. Yeah, I don't know what I'm doing.
Here, hold the camera. There we go. That's in. It's not rocket science, I promise. Anybody could do this, except me. So yeah, now let's get these bolts tightened up. So we got to get this little ring onto the coilover shock tower. Mike's a professional mechanic and he hates these, so that tells me something. They're really hard to put on, and it's really just finessing it and lots of finger strength and not breaking things or screwing up your threads.
Or yelling and throwing it through the wall.
Yes. So I would honestly love if Detroit Speed would just put these on at factory. I'm sure they have a machine that could just be like, psh, done. Guys, that would be awesome. That's my only feedback on here. Outside of that, straightforward. So we got to assemble the shock. Check out the instructions. There's the rubber gaskets. There's the upper seat that sits on the ring, and then the nut that locks it all together. And then I'm going to talk about a few things so you don't basically ruin the coilover and unthread the inside, and I'll talk about that when we get it installed.
Nope, got it.
Perfect. Man, that thing is annoying.
That is annoying.
Now it looks like it has two positions it can sit at, right here and up here. I'm assuming if it was here, I don't know, I'll have to ask Detroit Speed on that one, but I'm assuming that would be the lowest setting to get the lowest setting. Because it looks like that there's like a perfect ring size gap right there. I could be wrong. I don't know. I'm gonna ask Detroit Speed, find out. But there you go, it's in place. Jam nut, washer, rubber insulator, frame, and then it will go rubber insulator, washer, nut. So it'll go like that. And we're lowering it all the way down for now. Now in the package, you're gonna have Torrington bearings. Those are gonna sit right below the shock. So they're gonna sit on this seat right here. We're gonna put some anti-seize on those because it's just gonna make it easier and make sure that they don't bind up. And it's not gonna take a whole lot of anti-seize. Just a little bit on the actual bearings. That's
And then see, they pull through both sides. So you don't have to cut both sides. You just need just a little bit. Don't make a mess with it. Oi, oi, oi.
So it was a little bit easier to slide one side on because I could tilt the whole setup, but I think we can feed it through. There's no, you gotta go down. Yeah. So now I'm gonna walk you through how to tighten that in a little bit because there's a very special way you have to do it, but we'll get the bottom connected up. So we got the bolt and washer through the top. Now we're gonna pick up the control arm and we'll get the nuts. So at this point, we're removing the castle nuts and the cotter pin, and keep in mind there's a whole bunch of washers up top for geometry. So you'll want to hold on to these. We're not necessarily going to put these in place because we don't know how the car is going to sit, but when you go for your first alignment, these may come into play. So keep these. So at this point, we're going to tighten the top of the shock, and we're just going to get it a little bit more tight than it is because we do have a lot of play here. And the one thing you have to be careful of is this shaft threads into a bolt inside the actual coilover. So you can't just take a 9/16 or whatever size this bolt is and just drill it in, because you'll basically undo the bolt on the inside once it starts spinning. And if that happens, warranty, replacement, or rebuild that you'll have to pay for. Not fun. So to do this, we're using the old tried and true method. 1/2 inch socket or ratchet. I'm sure there's better tools for this, but this is what I got right now. So we're gonna tighten this up until it gets snug. So what they're saying is get it to where the rubber piece here smashes, and then give it one turn after that is what they're calling for. Now we're gonna get our brakes on. Get our brake on! Set you on here. Get our castle nut. Oh, because those bolts are still, I bet if those bolts were loose, we could easily get it.
I don't think so. I think we're still
Actually, it would make it harder.
Just short.
Oh, I guess we're gonna have to use a jack and some straps.
Nope.
So because my subframe's not attached to anything solid, what are you thinking?
I got it.
Do you?
Yep.
Oh, you're gonna loosen that just enough to get that? You want me to hold?
Put the nut.
There. Oh, yeah. Nut. Set the camera down. It's like one thread. I need one more thread. I got it. Might be enough. It might come flying off. Ah, wow, Mike, you are awesome. Apologies, it got late and it was really dark and it started raining, and I had to get the 6th gen Camaro back in the garage because I didn't want to get it completely coated with nasty California rainwater. But all that being stated, we have the DSE full front kit installed. Again, I'm using a C5 brake setup. I removed the calipers primarily because I'm using the old wheels that came with the car to keep it as a roller. The problem is I didn't have the right lug nut size, so they're not on the car right now. But we have the coilover in place, the spring, the upper and lower control arms, all installed. All the bolts were torqued down to spec as outlined in the instructions, and we have a front end of a car. Now, my next step is the full rebuild of the steering. So you can see I got a bunch of steering components as well. I'm gonna do that in a separate video for those of you who are interested in seeing how the full steering setup is assembled and put on the vehicle. Get ready for that video in the near future. So my complete steering kit is also from Detroit Speed outside of the center link. Outside of that, it's all pretty straightforward if you haven't done it before. There will be a video on it, but thanks for checking it out. That is the whole front end assembly. Now, obviously, I still got to connect brakes. There's still a lot of work to do on this car, but as far as the speed kit portion of it, it's installed, ready to go, and we're about ready to turn this car into a roller. So I appreciate you guys checking out this video. If you guys have comments, questions, concerns, post them down below. Hopefully some of the tips and information I provided in this video were helpful to you before you started this project, if you watched this video ahead of time. And if not, tell me what other things you've ran into, or post below so others who may stumble across this video in the future can also see potential other issues that you run into. I think the big one, the washer on the underside for the lower control arm, was a big one, and just the length. Like, the washers I went with are just ginormous, so I'm gonna swap all those out, maybe even get longer bolts just to make sure everything's good. I don't want to have an issue where a bolt vibrates off over time. That'd be bad. So that's all I got. Until next time, guys, see you on the road.